today's lesson is division with exponents. So when you see the word division, that's talking about dividing the bases. We're not dividing exponents. There's a different rule with exponents. So here there are two rules for today's lesson. Rule number one, if you have two of the same bases, A represents the same base, so same base, and they both have exponents, m and n, then you subtract the exponents. Notice your base is still a. We didn't divide a divided by a and get 1. You kept a, you bring a over, so your base comes over, and you subtract your exponents as long as a is not 0. Rule number 2. You have a fraction. You will say you have a quotient. You have a division problem. All of that raised to a power. So you have a quotient in a parentheses raised to a power. Sort of like the distributive property, but not really. But you're going to end up distributing your power to the top and to the bottom quantity. So then if you look here, you have a to the nth power and b to the nth power. So whatever is your quotient, whatever is in your parentheses, you're going to distribute the power to the top and to the bottom as long as a and b are not 0. So those are your two rules. Make sure you get those down, and let me show you some examples. Alright, so examples 1, these are rules, the first rule, rule number 1. So I'm going to show you about that subtracting exponents. Notice in A we have -12, -12. That's the same base. So your base comes down, -12. If it's in parentheses, I'm going to keep it in parentheses. And then my exponents are 10 and 4, so I'm going to subtract 10 minus 4, which is 6. So my final answer is -12 to the 6th power. -12 to the 6th power. Let's try B. The base is 7. The base is 7, so I'm going to bring down a 7, and I'm going to subtract 4 minus what? So what exponent is here? A 1. And 4 minus 1 is 3. 7 to the 3rd power. No need to calculate it out, just 7 to the 3rd power. The last one, we have x to the 5th and x to the -2. So x is my base, and then I have to do 5 minus -2. 5 minus -2. If you have forgotten, then touch that twice, which is really 7, and I have x to the 7th power. So don't forget about these negative exponents. 5 minus -2. Alright, so example 2 is with rule number 2. Example 2, I'm going to show you that distributing sort of. So A, 2/3, all raised to the 3rd power. So that means we distribute it to the top and to the bottom. So it becomes 2 to the 3rd over 3 to the 3rd. Well, these are not hard to calculate, so let's just go ahead and simplify it out. 2 to the 3rd is 8. 3 to the 3rd is 27. So 8 over 27. Let's do another one. 4/5 raised to the -2nd power. So make sure you pay attention to that negative. It's going to go to the top and the bottom. So we have 4 to the -2 over 5 to the -2. Well, you remember we can't have a negative. So if the negative's on the top, we're going to move it to the bottom. And if the negative's on the bottom, we're going to move it to the top. So it's like we're going to flip-flop these. Then we can simplify it out. 5 squared is 25 over 16. So again, this was a negative, so I had to move it to the bottom. And this was a negative, so I had to move it to the top. Let's do one more together. We're going to distribute it to the top and to the bottom. But look right here in the bottom. We already have an exponent. So you have to remember your power to a power rule. So let me show you this one. X to the 2nd power over w squared, because it's already to the 2nd power, raised to a power. And then if you remember your power to a power rule, what is w squared raised to the second power, we're going to multiply, so that would be w to the fourth. So make sure you get those. If you have any questions, write them down. So the next few examples I'm going to show you, we're going to combine rules. I'm going to show you problems where you have to distribute and then divide. So both rules. First thing you do is you distribute. So we're going to distribute that exponent. Then we're going to use our division rule that we just learned. So we're going to take this exponent, we're going to distribute it to the 3, to the y, to the 6, and to the y. Every single thing in that quotient. 3y, 6y. So now we can simplify to 3 squared, y to the 4th squared, 6 squared, and y squared. Notice y to the 4th already had a power, so I put it in parentheses. And then we have to use our power to a power rule, so really that's y to the 8th. Now if you have a question about that, then see the other video about power to a power. Now let's simplify out. 3 squared is 9, y to the 8th. 6 squared is 36, y squared. Alright, we're not done. Now let's see if we can do any, the dividing. Look at 9 and 36. Circle that fraction for me. Circle that on your paper. 9 and 36, are those bases? No, those are not bases. The y is the base. So the 9 and the 36 is just called, they're called coefficients. So that's just a fraction. 9 over 36 we can reduce to 1/4. And if you're not sure how I got that, I divided both by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1, 36 divided by 9 is 4. So we're going to reduce 9/36 to 1/4. And then we're going to use our rule. We're going to subtract. 8 minus 2 is 6. And then that's how I get my final answer. So I'm going to just review one more time. I distributed. I used my power to a power rule. Then I simplified my fraction, and I used my power rule to subtract. So my final answer, and if you didn't need that, you don't really need that 1. So y to the 6 over 4. Alright, so here is another example with both rules. First you distribute, then you divide. So here we go. We have to distribute it to the 2, to the x, to the y, to the 5, and to the x. So notice that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different terms I'm going to distribute it to. 2 to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, because all of these on top are just singular. 5 to the 3rd, and then x squared to the 3rd. If this is confusing you, you have to write your question down so you can ask me tomorrow. So I have my power to a power right here. And 2 times 3 is 6. So that's really x to the 6. So now let's do a little simplifying. 2 to the 3rd is 8. X to the 3rd, y to the 3rd. 5 to the 3rd. 5 times 5 is 25, so that's 125. And then x to the 6. So again, my bases. X is a base and y is a base. 8 and 125, they don't have exponents anymore, so those are not bases anymore. So I want to circle your fraction. And I don't think anything can go into 8 and 125, but we would use our calculator and simplify 8 and 125. But 2 and 4 and 8. So I think it's just going to be 8 over 125. And now let's subtract 3 minus 6. is -3, so this is x to the -3rd power, because I got that by doing 3 minus 6. And then y. Do you have any y's down there? No. So it doesn't just disappear, you just bring it down. This is a long one. And what's wrong with this? Hopefully you see that we have a negative exponent. We cannot have a negative exponent. So this has to move to the bottom. So we have 8y to the 3rd over 125x to the 3rd as your final answer. That was a long problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. A long problem. All right. So the very last one, example 5, is a you try. I want you to try this. Remember to distribute, and then you're going to use your division. Remember, you have to simplify fractions. You subtract exponents, and you can't have any negatives. No negatives. So you work on this one, and we will go over the answer in class tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.